Greetings from the operational room of the National Institute for Earth Physics in Romania. I am Dragoș Toma-Dănilă, and in the past 10 years, I've been the administrator of a quite important system, the Rapid Earthquake Loss Estimation system, which we call SeisDaRo. Along with my colleagues, I will share with you some insights and also some thoughts regarding foreseen improvements of this system. A bit about the context. So, what are rapid earthquake loss estimates? These can indicate the potential scale of a disaster very quickly, reflecting the distribution of potentially damaged buildings, injured residents, or economical losses. Therefore, they are highly useful for a faster activation of emergency protocols and mobilization of search and rescue teams or engineers, but also this can contribute to a prioritization of areas where to first focus intervention, but also gathering information, given that estimates are always not gonna present the exactly the reality and needs to be validated. Of course, these systems can be used for generating multiple scenarios, but it is to be kept in mind that results are always going to be subjected to a high degree of uncertainty. Throughout the time, more or less complex LM methodologies have been developed, and the main examples are the ones based on empirical equations relating intensity with casualty occurrence, such as the Pager empirical approach, the methods which use fragility functions for structures related with ground motion parameters such as acceleration, spectral acceleration, or velocity, and then casualty models for estimating what might happen to residents or in terms of economic losses. Also, there are methods relying on multi-criteria analysis. Some examples of LS systems worldwide, there is the Pager at the USGS, QLARM or EQYA system at the AMSC under development, but also some countries have their own systems, more or less complex. And among these countries, there is also Romania. But why Romania with SeisDaRo? Well, first of all, because Romania is a country which can be significantly affected by earthquakes. It has been and it will certainly be. The main seismic source responsible to this damage is the Vrancea area, located on this map, clearly seen here. And its particularity is that in the Vrancea area, earthquakes occur at intermediate depth from 60 to 150 kilometers, but there are also other crustal sources, such as Banat, Făgăraș, Câmpul Lung, Șabla, and also others. Here you can see the hazard map and also the risk map in terms of people which could be killed by earthquakes, but these maps achieved in the raw risk project and not with SeisDaRo, are based on the probabilistic approach. What can happen during Vrancea earthquakes? The lessons of the past show us that during the 1940 earthquake, the intensity values were very high, not just in the epicentral area, but in a wide extent from Turnu Măgurele to Iași, intensities greater than 8, or at least 8, with significant damage effects all across these areas. Also, the 1977 earthquake, which was slightly lower in magnitude but closer to the surface than the 1940 earthquake, was the most destructive in the history of Romania. A lot of people were killed, and 90% of them were in Bucharest, where also 33 moderate or high-rise buildings collapsed. Here you can see just a couple of examples. So in a couple of seconds, in a minute, a significant area of Romania can be affected. But where to focus intervention? Which areas can be affected more than others? This is why this rapid earthquake loss estimation system is important. And also we must take into consideration that the present vulnerability of many buildings. These are just examples for Bucharest, but also we can find many examples in many other big cities in Romania. This can clearly reflect in an even higher number of buildings damaged and affected people. And of course, there can be earthquakes in the Vrancea area with magnitudes greater than the ones in 1940 and 1977. This is why SeisDaRo came into place 10 years ago when it became operational with its first version. Basically, back then and also now, the system relies on INFP's shake map, which was operational since 2007. And of course, this uses data from the more than 150 seismic stations all across Romania in the Romanian seismic network. SeisDaRo also automatically produces maps, reports, tables regarding estimated number of collapsed residential buildings, but also fatalities within minutes after an earthquake with local magnitude greater or at least 3. Here we can see a map showing more than 1,000 events which occurred in the 10 years period of exploitation of SeisDaRo. Fortunately, the greatest was 5.6, and for this event, both in reality and in our simulation, no major damage was recorded. So we haven't yet had the chance to validate what this system does, but of course we've played with during the time with multiple versions and multiple scenarios of this system. And this is something which I want to do right now. I'm going to take you through the backend of the system, which is installed on a server and actually uses a lot of MATLAB. And I'm going to start a simulation. You can see here I've put some parameters, the depth, magnitude, coordinates of an earthquake, and of course this is a BGS 2021 scenario. And I'm gonna run this code, which is also run in real time. It's almost the same procedure. So let's see how it goes and how much time it takes to compute. And now you can see the first preliminary results. This is the pager module is a very rapid generated figure, and it uses, as I've presented you, the pager empirical methodology. And now the system started using a different module, which is called Selena. Okay, in the meantime, I can also open my email, and you can see that the first results were sent here on my email list, and then I'll be back and check with you the moment of arrival for the more detailed loss estimates. Okay, moving back to the presentation, it should take about 4 and 5 minutes to fully run the system and send the results. I've mentioned that at the beginning, 10 years ago, there was version 1. This version relied only on the Selena software, which is developed by the NORSAR Institute, and they helped us install the system. Back then, it provided loss estimates just for 7 southern counties in Romania, and it used an exposure data from 1999 and 2002. After this version in 2013, we processed more exposure data and were capable to estimate losses in about 20 counties, but also in Bucharest at the level of administrative unit, but also for some regions in northern Bulgaria, 83 municipalities. Beside this, in version 2, another software was added. TIMA was called and was developed by the Technical University of Civil Engineering in Bucharest. And this software was devoted to estimating the probability of damage for important buildings in southern Romania and northern Bulgaria. buildings such as city halls, schools, hospitals. In 2017 came the third version of SeisDaRo, which is currently in use. And this provided many new functionalities, such as a custom shake map module, which replicates the shake map methodology, but also enables, let's say, much better control of what goes into the system, which was also fitted with multiple equations for the Vrancea earthquakes, intermediate depth, which require specific prediction equations for intensity, but also for acceleration. This version still relies on Selena, but also we added the pager raw module, which is basically like the pager empirical module in USGS, but with refined exposure data from 2011. This newer exposure data was, of course, used for the Selena module, and it comprised of different building typologies and also the number of people in 2011 which live in those buildings. In the near future, we are of course working at the version 4 of SeisDaRo, and I will provide more details soon on this. But it is to be kept in mind that SeisDaRo 3 for the Selena module uses multiple typologies of buildings. This is the starting point. And of course, it associates with these multiple fragility functions, some of which, especially for reinforced concrete, were developed specifically for Romania's territory. And in terms of results, for scenarios such as the 1940, 1977, 1986, or 1990 earthquakes, you can see here what the pager module and the Selena module produces. It is to be kept in mind that the vulnerability and the exposure clearly increased, also the vulnerability of buildings, and this beside indicates that some improvements needs to be done. SeisDaRo was also used in defense plans against earthquakes, such as the Seism 2019 exercise. Here you can see the input which was used for this earthquake, but also it's being used in the national conception for post-earthquake response. Here are some results of SeisDaRo applied to the multiple census tract of Bucharest. You can find multiple details in this article published in 2017. So we used it also at a smaller resolution. What comes next? In version 4, in hopefully launched in 2022, we are going to implement Selena version 7, which will provide new capabilities, as you see on the screen. We are testing now the specific response spectrum, which is anchored in more acceleration values, 9. We are going to use also PGA and SA-based analysis beside the spectral displacement for the definition of buildings. We've identified which are the dysfunctionalities in the exposure dataset and what we can do to correct rapidly some of the problems. We've tested various loss estimation methodologies, and we are clearly thinking in version 4 to make it compatible and provide input both also for another system which we have at INFP, the network risk system, which enables the estimation of the impact of earthquakes on traffic and emergency intervention travel times. In the next year, we are going to see some spectacular new platforms which are now in implementation. And here I'm referring to the Redact platform, which is a joint effort in the Black Sea area between Greece, Republic of Moldova, Romania, and Turkey. And it will produce a platform also capable of rapid estimation of losses in this Black Sea area. Also, there is the turnkey platform in which Bucharest is a test bed, and the Selena methodology is going to be also implemented there. And beside this, there's always the OpenQuake the development, and some work was already started in the Sera project. Let's see what happened to the system. So it basically produced input, as you can see, in 3 minutes after the first loss estimate. So things are running fine. And for this earthquake 7.4, the losses are as depicted in this map. Thanks for your attention, and stay tuned for multiple new developments of this system.